Top of the noon to you all. Welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show from a wonderful studio in sunny South Florida, which is a sunny place for shady people, as you know. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. It's my honor to have all of you watching. So I wanted to start by actually going again back to stuff that I alluded to last time on the last episode before I left, which was, once again, highlight. You know I like highlight. I'm going to always talk about it because it's a sport that gives you the 5 minutes you need, or 2 hours, I'd say, away from regular life so you can enjoy yourself. So as you know, I mentioned the Highlight League Chargers, or the Lifestyle Miami Chargers, the real name. Right there we are. Here we are in fourth place. We defeated the Devils, unlike what happened on the Friday night I was there. Again, you could watch this on the Highlight League Network on YouTube. You could also watch on ESPN3. On Friday night, the first place team right there, the Fireballs, will be playing the fifth place team, the Chargers, not the Warriors. That'll be on at 7 p.m. You could watch that. Again, this is the YouTube channel you could watch it on if you want to see it live on the Highlight League Network or on ESPN3. You could also go to worldhighlightleague.com/battle court to see the website that I'm talking about. So we're in fourth place. We gutted it out. Remember, it's 1 point for a win. You have to win at least 4 out of 6 games. Remember, there's 3 games in a set, 6 points to a set, kind of like tennis. But I guess it's a little more fun to watch, I'd say, or follow. So please check that out if you can. Once again, the Lifestyle Miami Chargers, we're in fourth place. We're only a point behind, though, and there's still a few ways to go in the season. Also, yesterday, my New York Mets, we came through. We defeated the Miami Marlins. I guess we're now in third place, I believe. I think we're right behind the Marlins, who still early. I think we're only 6 or 7 games in. I noticed the Atlanta Braves are 0-7. I mean, I thought they were World Series contenders, but again, it's early in the season. So, and here's the polar bear. There is Pete Alonso hitting a crushing 3-run home run to dead center field, tied the game, and he got an RBI in the game. We actually won, and there's the standings. So there we are. I think we're the second most expensive team in major leagues, but we haven't played a home game yet. 3-3 on the road. That's kind of where you want to be. And again, Miami's in second place right now. That's pretty good considering that they're a young and upstart team. I don't expect them to remain that, in second place. But again, if you do have the time, if you do live in South Florida, if you can get to Lone Depot Park, go there, take your mind off things because, life could be, so like almost soul crushing depending on your situation. Baseball's a good couple of hours to get away from things, to have fun with your significant other, your friends, your family, or highlight. Once again, Magic City Fronton, 7 p.m. You could hit there, Magic City Casino, to watch the game on Friday night, 7 p.m., or watch it live on YouTube or ESPN3. And hopefully you root for my team. I like the Chargers, but we won't be playing, so we'll be playing next week. But there's an update on the fun things in life. But now we're going to get to the news and what has dominated the news, especially in my audience here knows we big on New York City and the NYPD and, of course, City Hall. So what did we learn yesterday? Well, it looks like finally Judge Dale Ho dismissed the Eric Adams corruption case with prejudice, which means it won't be brought forth again by the U.S. government. It's, well, what can I say? I'm going to use a line from our previous guest on the last show, Roger Stone, who wrote an excellent book called Stone's Rules. One of those rules, and these are the rules to, follow in your life, fashion, politics, stuff like that, rules to live by in your life. And one of the rules says that politics is theater for the ugly. Okay, so what can I tell you? This screams of political, it's strictly political. The judge gave a scathing review about this case, that Eric Adams, and then I'm going to play this video of him trotting out there with a book. Once again, he's talking about or being ordained by Jesus and God. I mean, what can I say? And about here is a article here, and there's a little paragraph, and I'm going to highlight this part about what yesterday's findings by the judge in his final decision here. And it says Judge Ho wrote that the law had left him with little recourse in the face of the Trump administration's abandonment of the case. Still, he criticized the Department of Justice's reasoning, calling it unprecedented and breathtaking in its sweep. He also said that the previous attorneys, all the prosecutors that resigned in good faith, that they actually have integrity. He said they did nothing wrong. It's funny that Eric Adams said he did nothing wrong. But then again, many people have pled guilty, and many people have also got caught up in that very case. So they were witnesses, they were grand juries. There's other people's lives that are now affected. 2 people in particular pled guilty. They didn't plead guilty for themselves. They were involved in this case in particular for Eric Adams, and that's I think his name is Bahi, his former staffer, and Erdogan Erkan, I think his name is, or Erkan, the Turkish straw donor, who Bahi went to the house and told him, Eric Adams says, don't worry, the FBI can't find the cash, or something to that degree. These men are now ruined. Their life is destroyed, and Eric Adams now is running as an independent. That's what he announced, and we knew that was coming. That's what happened today. And there is the gentleman. I think his name is Erkan, but that is the gentleman that pled guilty in this Eric Adams case. There it is, Erdogan Arkan. That's his name. He is now, his life is ruined because he was involved with Eric Adams, whether he was influence peddling or whatever the case may be. He is a Turkish straw donor that is now have his life ruined. And Hassan Mo there, his comment, dude spent $3 million out of his own pocket on lawyer fees. Yeah, this is, what can I say? It's really a mess, but I wanted to show you. Here's a video. Listen, Eric Adams gave a little bit of a press conference, or he spoke in front of Gracie Mansion. And what he said is really troubling, because the guest I'm going to have on a little bit is going to be discussing the very things and cases that may lead to more criminal liability and civil liability on Eric Adams' part. So it's really unbelievable how this guy speaks. But here's the video. I'd like to play this for you, and you make the determination yourself whether this guy's even being honest, dishonest, or what your thoughts are on it. But let's roll it. Let's roll yesterday's press conference.
My fellow New Yorkers, today finally marks the end of this chapter. I want to thank my legal team, but specifically my counsel, Alex Spiro. Now I clearly understand why those from Jay-Z to Baldwin call on him during difficult times. Alex, thank you so much for seeking and pursuing justice and obtaining justice. As you have heard, this case, the judge has dismissed it with prejudice, making it clear that it never can be brought back. Let me be clear. As I've said all along, this case should have never been brought. And I did nothing wrong. I'm now happy that our city can finally close the book on this and focus solely on the future of our great city. I want to thank New Yorkers who stood by my side, who prayed for me, who supported me from day one, and stuck with me while we focus on the work at hand. And continue to deliver for the nearly 8.5 million New Yorkers who call this city home every day. That's who I think about every morning when I wake up here. That's who I am fighting for. Each of you make this city the greatest city on the globe. Also want to apologize to New Yorkers for having to go through this with me, a baseless case that should have never been brought in the first place. The lies spread through false leaks and splashed across sensational headlines and all of the distractions. But what I want you to know, that I never stopped working for you. Not for one day, not for 1 hour, not for 1 minute. Because you are who I think about every morning. You are my North Star. This is the city that I put on that bulletproof vest for and protected the children and families. And I think about you every day. Just think about what we have done since the indictment was brought. We reduced crime 2 record lows in this city, delivered a record number of jobs in our city, built and created affordable housing for everyday New Yorkers. Record after record. But the work did not stop there. We did not let the noise stop our progress, and we fought for working class New Yorkers every single day. Look, I say it over and over again. I'm a New Yorker, and this is the greatest city on the globe, and it's a privilege being your mayor.
Look, I don't know what to think hearing that. You know, he's saying that he did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong, although other people pled guilty to the very things that he is saying that he did not do. And it was a baseless case. No, it was a very, very serious case. And it seems that his God is really the president or people in his orbit. But again, what does this say to the victims in this case? And what does it say to the poor people that now pled guilty to a case that now seems vacant, right? And also, he was using these defenses. He's mentioning Alex Spiro and all this stuff. His defense is actually what he is trying to say, that in the Luigi Mangione case, that, well, Luigi Mangione is guilty of everything that they're saying he did. But yet Eric Adams is saying, well, I can't be the mayor if I'm in this, if I'm in this case. I needed it to be dropped. Here he is when he was celebrating his birthday with the self-admitted criminal mob associate there in former restaurant known as Conso Frito. This is now what he's going to go back to partying all the time again. So, him saying what he said there, and in regards to the people that it affects, and trust me, there is more to come with him. Just because you think this case is removed, there's other things brewing and have been brewing for quite a while in the background. So this is why I decided I have to have the guest I have coming on today. He is a prominent attorney. You're going to know him when you see his face. He strikes fear in the hearts of those in the upper echelon of New York City Police Department in New York City. And that's the one and only, my fellow paisan, John Scola. John, thank you for coming on today. It's quite an honor to have a fellow paisan on.
Thanks, Sal. Big fan. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, I am a fan of your work, as you know. You have, like I said, you strike fear because you have so many suits. You've been successful so many times. So before we get to all of that, you just saw and heard this whole thing with Eric Adams. And again, what is your thoughts on the decision by the judge? And, because obviously this can affect numerous other cases, because now Eric thinks he's off the hook with everything, yet he's kind of insinuated in many other cases, especially those that you have. So what are your thoughts on the judge and that decision yesterday?
Well, I think the judge's hands were tied in terms of what he could do in allowing the case to move forward. Once the prosecutors determined that, or made it clear that they didn't want to proceed in the case, they really have discretion there. So it seems like Judge Ho hands were tied. But I mean, the comments that he made in the body of the decision that this reeks of a quid pro quo deal, I think are pretty telling. I will say that the criminal cases don't necessarily impact the civil cases. Although if Mayor Adams has, like I have 4 cases against Tim Pearson. If Mayor Adams goes to jail, as does Tim Pearson, it obviously helps the cases because it makes them all less credible, which they don't need a lot of help with becoming less credible these days. But obviously a conviction in federal court would have helped that. I will say that it's Adams's policies and reluctance to discipline his friends, which ultimately lead to the city being liable for these civil cases, more so than a criminal case on straw donors or upgrades of flights. I think it stems directly from his own sexual assault case. So when he gets sued by my friend Megan Goddard for sexual assault, he has to say that never happened and not apologize or be suspended with pay or anything like that. And then from that point forward, anyone else that's accused of similar allegations also have to be allowed to remain, which leads them to keep someone like Scott Henderson, who's accused of sexual harassment, or Jeffrey Madry, who's been accused of sexual harassment for a long time before the Epps sexual abuse allegations came out. Tim Pearson was allowed to stay. All these people are allowed to remain in power, with Mayor Adams saying they need due process, but that's not the normal standard for allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace. The normal approach is to suspend someone with pay, so they're not injured in any way. They're still paid. They're just put on the shelf. We, as the employer, look into it, investigate it, and then make a determination. If they clear them of wrongdoing, then they can go back to work. If they have GO after GO in Pearson's case of people corroborating the evidence, and the former corp counsel has to resign because the law department is being forced to cover Tim Pearson, well, then that's a different story. But that all goes back to Adams' refusal to remove bad actors that are his friends when allegations come forward.
It's funny you mentioned this case of Megan Goddard. It's a good thing that she's your friend, because I find it a little like, so Eric Adams, who his corporation counsel left partially because of that case. Yes. His direct counsel, Lisa Zornberg, left also because of that case. And they were referencing things. They almost is a theme we're going to find with all these other cases, especially yours. Yeah. They browbeat and bully anyone who's a whistleblower or a victim. So this woman, right? They're having a problem because Alex Spiro was the attorney until recently on that. But they were browbeating this woman, saying he doesn't know her. He doesn't. I don't recall this when we actually had now Eric Sanders on. He's also an attorney, and he was the president of the Guardians, and he specifically said, no, Eric didn't know her. They were part of the Transit Guardians. So Eric is smearing her. But John, we keep seeing this over and over again, because in all your case, it's the same thing over and over again. It stems from the top.
So Adams' case is unique in that the law department does not cover employees that are accused of crimes like sexual assault or rape. I have other examples where they did not cover the NYPD employees. Both of them were allowed to retire, though, I will add, in good standing while the allegations were pending. One was multiple rape allegations on a first-grade detective. They declined to bring a 30-day case, allowed him to retire in good standing with a good guy letter. The other guy was an ICO lieutenant in property, literally sexually assaulted my client, grabbed her by the head, made her give him a blowjob, threw her out of the office. He got collared on that. Is facing criminal charges right now in Brooklyn, Kings County, and they allowed him to vest with 18 years on, rather than what they said was suspend him with pay and then risk maybe him bringing a 30-day case and then forcing my client to testify against him in the trial room. They sold it as, we won't want her to do that, and we'll let him go with 18 years and full pension. I assume you don't have that, Sal, right?
Nope.
Right. I mean, this guy got collared after that. They mimicked the charges and specs off of the indictment in Kings County, and then let him vest. So, I mean, as I tell you all the time, it's a phone call job, and it's who you know, which is really good for my business, but it's terrible if you're an employee in the NYPD, because I mean, it's who you know over and over again, even when you're accused of the most heinous sex crimes imaginable. They'll still look the other way if you have those hooks.
And that's the point. And you could easily point to this stuff. And I want to get into a couple of those cases. You definitely Tim Pearson's name. That guy is, there's a lot on that guy. But
yeah,
we were talking beforehand about all the different cases you have. So you have like the sexual harassment cases, you have discriminatory cases. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that and the process. Yeah. People have a lot of questions about that. And also the fact that people think that you can file a lawsuit and then this thing moves quick, and you could see that they play games. So you kind of explain how the corporation counsel actually, does business, because it's not like you snap your fingers and you go on a trial,
No. At the end of the day, the law department is defense attorneys. So they're defending the case. They can defend by delaying the case. This is like, so there's some discrepancies between lawyers as to where cases are filed. I file all my cases in state court. And the reason why is because, several reasons. The first reason is because the standard is actually lower in state court than federal court. In state court, in federal court rather, you have to suffer what's called an adverse employment action in order to win a discrimination case. In state court, usually adverse employment action means you have to suffer some type of monetary loss. So usually the least one would be like you get changed from 4 buys or midnights to day tours. You lose your night diff. So that's a hidden adverse event there. But under state law and city law in state court, you just have to suffer what's called more than a petty slight or trivial inconvenience. So basically, if they deny your off days, that counts. If they do that in federal court, it doesn't. So it's easier. The other difference is in federal court, your protected characteristic has to be the main reason for that adverse action. So you got fired because you're Italian, or you get fired because you're Jewish. Under state law, in state court and city law, it's whether or not that was a factor. So the reason why that's important is the moment you file a case against the job, either EEO or external case, they automatically start to retaliate against you. And it's pretty much unavoidable. Usually by the time you get to me, they've already been doing this for years. So it's like, we just have to protect ourselves from this point. But they're always trying to dirty your CPI to defend the lawsuit. Under federal law, if they find out that you stole time or signed out late or whatever it may be, they can use that as a defense in the lawsuit. But under city law and state law, under state court, that to me is evidence of retaliation, because they would never be doing that if you didn't engage in that protected activity of the EEO or filing the lawsuit. Both of that is protected. So they basically come after you, but they're still doing the same playbook now. But I think it helps all my state court cases. Now, another reason why we're in state court as opposed to federal is federal court judges monitor the case the whole way through and really want you to do it in a very shortened timeline because they want to clear their docket. That helps defendants, especially the city, who claims we're too big to move quickly, and it really drags things out. So, like, if you get a judge's understanding and you stay on top of them, then you can make it work, assuming they rule in your favor. And there's a lot of things have to go right. State court, you have the same pushback. It's actually slower, but it's more attorney-friendly in a weird way. So it allows you to really handle all of your cases. So it might take a year or two longer, but we'll get to all the evidence that we need, and we'll get to a jury where we can get to money. So to your point about settling, the law department, in my opinion, they handle, and the NYPD has so just a little bit of background here. The NYPD doesn't fix any of these problems because they don't really have to. The law department covers all the legal fees. The comptroller pays the money, and the NYPD legal bureau, David Goldfarb, is technically the client to the law department. So essentially, they don't really have to pay the money. They don't really have to fix anything. The people in power got there under this system. I have Melikowski on tape, who was the former director of OEO saying that the moment you file an external complaint, they close the internal investigation and it switches to a defense investigation for the lawsuit. What that means is no one's ever disciplined if you file an external lawsuit. If you have a case that's serious enough to be filed in court, a lawyer takes it on, they believe there's money there, the job doesn't punish you for that. If they already had done it, then they'll honor it, but they're more worried about winning in court than they are about fixing the NYPD. Again, it's great for me as a person who sues the NYPD for a living, but terrible for rooting out discrimination, sexual harassment, all that, all these retaliation, all these issues that are ongoing in the department. Now, I filed a case a couple weeks ago, and I got a call from the CEO of Group 1 afterwards who wanted my client to come in and talk to them, and they said that the policy changed. Since that time, though, I got a letter from DOC closing out one of my client's EEO cases there for the same reasons that Melikowski said on tape, which was you filed an external complaint. This is our policy. That's why we're closing this out. So my client, it was her choice whether we went in or not. She ultimately didn't trust EEO, and with good reason. I've sued the last 3 COs of EEO for discrimination against investigators in EEO. So it's not like it's like people out there saying that they got the investigation wrong. No, it's not that. It's them actually discriminating against the people in there. I'm about to file another case in a couple of weeks against them again. That one though, it's like there's all this pressure in there to substantiate cases because that's how you get promoted, but you have to do the right ones. It's the whole job is based on who you know, as you know. And that stems from everything, whether it's the medical division or EEO or the advocate's office. You know what I mean? It's wherever you are connected, you are hooked up. But back to the law department. So they handle these cases all differently. In state court, they'll settle them a little bit earlier because they have less of a chance of winning summary judgment based on that difference in standard and basically the burden that you need to make. Under state law, in a summary, so just a bit of background. So you file a lawsuit, then you serve the defendants. After you serve them, they either answer or file a motion to dismiss. If they file a motion to dismiss, the court has to accept everything that you said in your complaint as true. If they do, then did you meet the elements? So it's very rare for cases to be dismissed in state court on a motion to dismiss. It's based on notice pleading. So is the defendant on notice? In federal court, it's based on whether you pled sufficient facts. It's much higher. There's another reason why state court's a little bit better. After you serve them, and if they answer or that motion's denied, then it goes to discovery. In discovery, that's when you request documents, you exchange documents, you request emails or text messages or whatever it may be. Then you get deposed. You depose the defendants. You get witness statements or witness depositions or affidavits. And then at the end of discovery, that's when you say this case is ready for trial. At that point, the city or the defendants, I guess anyone really, could make a motion for what's called summary judgment. And that basically means that there's no question of fact that a jury could rule in your favor and it would award the winning to the defendants. So the way this works is we bear the initial burden as a plaintiff of saying that what happened to them happened for a discriminatory reason. Then the burden shifts to the city in this case is to say that, no, we had a legitimate business reason, needs of the department, right? Then it goes back to us to raise the kind of poke holes in that, to raise this thing called a pretextual argument, meaning that what they're claiming is bullshit and they're really masking what's really going on here, which is unlawful discrimination or retaliation. Under federal law, that's what it is. Under state law, there's this thing called mixed motives as well. So if you can show that they lied or didn't follow procedure, then you survive summary judgment through a trial. So that's why state court's so much better, because they never follow the patrol guide or the admin guide because they're not doing things on the up and up. They're going after someone they hate for whatever reason. So they're like, the hell with this guy. He's going on a fixed post every day. The hell with this guy. I graded him lost time, but I'm marking him AWOL. But they don't follow the AWOL procedures. so you can catch them on that and then beat them in court. Like the way that you win on the department is just get them talking, right? Explain what happened. They can win in federal court because the commanders sit behind and then just sign whatever affidavits come across their desk to win the case. And then a judge looks at it and is like, wow, the XO, the ICO, the CO, the admin lieutenant, and his 8 sergeants all said this guy's trash. He must be. But in reality, it's not that. He just was put on a fixed post. He didn't have the same opportunity to get activity, or he was on hospital or prisoner details. He met his conditions every time he was there. No one escaped. The prisoner's still there. He's meeting all their conditions. There's no reason to dock him for lack of activity if that's the opportunity he's getting. Now, so the short of it is the law department and the NYPD really as the client, they don't settle these cases very quickly because they don't want other people suing. They'll settle the high-end sexual harassment cases quickly. But the normal ones, which are this guy makes me his driver all the time and he's creepy and he comments about my butt or my boobs and he tells me how great he is when I know he's a clown and that happens every day. That's a normal sexual harassment case. The ones with Gabby Walls where Henderson tries to kiss her and then when she gets passed over for her CO spot, he goes, well, maybe they're doing something you're not to other women that got the position. Those are the high-end cases that are not that common, fortunately. But they're more common than you probably would think. So like a perfect example is I have a case right now against this guy, Brian Flynn. And Brian Flynn is a former commander, and now he works in Brooklyn courts. And he sexually harassed my married detective client for years. Would send him unsolicited dick pics, would masturbate into napkins and then send her pictures of the ejaculate. And then when she would block his number, first of all, she had to respond or he would deny her caretaker stuff with her children. He had to pick up her kids. If she didn't basically respond, he would deny her ability to see her kids. So from that point forward, she tries to block him. He hangs a rat photo on the wall with her name on it, essentially. And so flash forward, this all happens. She files the EEO finally. It's all corroborated by witnesses. It goes to EEO. They corroborate the whole case. Last week, he pled guilty to this. And we're waiting for a decision in the advocate's office. And we're waiting for Tisch then, Commissioner Tisch to either terminate him or uphold it or see what happens. So that will be something to look for to see how she handles that, which may be different than, say, how Caban handled that Antonio Pagan case where my client in that case has him on tape basically saying, you have a command discipline. If you sit on my lap, I'll warn and admonish it. And then the judge recommended termination for that case. And then Caban reversed it to just a 60-day hit, not even dismissal probation. And he's back on the job. Now, we heard he put it in his papers, but we don't know how this is going to go. This all stems from lack of top-down leadership taking sexual harassment seriously, basically. Including
Jessica Tisch, who now allegedly the allegations or any complaint would go to her, that's a total farce, John. We know that as a police commissioner, they have so much going on. The reason they have a deputy commissioner of EEO or equity, inclusion, equity is in intrusion is because the police commissioner, they work at the behest of the police commissioner. She can't handle this herself. So now, John, when you're telling me they're going to her or they're going to file something with her, where's that going to go? It's going to get recycled to it's the same story over and over again, John. Your cases literally show this. Yeah. This in particular.
Right. So, I mean, the reason why it goes to the PC, though, that's NYPD policy. So when you go to the ad, so, all right. So this is another part of how the job is connected and people, the has and the have not say. If you have a hook, you never get the CDs that lead to the charges that get you to the advocate's office. It's hard to find comparators because their comparators are actually the people that were never disciplined. They were people that had the phone call, so they got a warning and a modest CD or a 5-day hit on a B or a CCD or an ACD rather, that led to that should have led to charges, but they didn't because of the connections. So once you get to the trial room, Then you get charges and specs. Then the advocate's office comes in. Then you go to the kangaroo court, which is the trial room. And then after that decision is issued, you can write what's called a FOGO letter within 2 weeks. The advocate's office gets a rebuttal, and then it goes to the PC for a final determination. That final determination is what matters. I'm actually suing the advocate's office too, though. My client is Samuel Yee, who
he prosecuted me. He prosecuted me.
Well, he was their best one, honestly.
You can tell his story that he was basically. I don't think he's. They were like giving him like he's. First of all, I think as a prosecutor, he's way above. It is beneath him to even be in that office. He actually is he's a real prosecutor that put murderers in jail. To ask him to prosecute somebody for being a friend of a political consultant you're basically degrading this guy, in my opinion. That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
The guy he's too good for that position.
So it's even worse than that. So he's not there anymore. They bounced him out of that after he filed an EEO. So he filed an EEO for discrimination, race discrimination. And then what ends up happening is there was a witness that I have in that case who is also in the legal bureau, who was on loan to DOC as a liaison because he had cancer and was undergoing cancer treatments. And Ken Janis, who was the head of the legal bureau at that time, called this witness into a meeting and said on a Tuesday, we love what you're doing. You can have this accommodation indefinitely. It literally shows in perpetuity is what he tells him in the meeting. Then on Thursday, Sam Yee inquires with the legal bureau about what the status of his retaliation case is. The next day, he's kicked out of the advocate's office. They removed the witness back to the NYPD and gave him that spot. So they screw over the guy with cancer in order to retaliate against Sam Yee the day after he just inquired about the status of his complaint. That is a perfect example of the NYPD right there. It's not about what's right in any way. It's about, this guy made a complaint against me? The hell with him. He becomes my enemy, and then it's scorched earth after these people to get them, which is incredible if you sue the NYPD for retaliation. But it's terrible if you have to work there for 22 and a half years or 20 years, depending on when you came on. It's just a miserable existence. So like most of my clients are not very eager to sue the job until they're backed into a corner where they have no choice but to sue them, or they're risking losing their entire pension. That's usually what it is. I mean, like the clients that come in, they're at the point where there's nothing left to do except sue them. No one wants to sue their employer where you're stuck with them for that long. If you work in a private industry, you just go to another law firm or accounting firm or security firm even. But you can't do that as police officers because obviously of the age requirements for other places. So it's not like you can't just go to Newark and work if you're 40. It doesn't work. You can't do that in Long Island. You're stuck there. And what they do is they use that as leverage to really go after you, which is really sad. I mean, it's this all gets rooted out in private enterprise because they have to pay for the lawyers. You know what I mean? They don't want things hurting their bottom line. So, but here it's not. I mean, and the law department is very good at their job. I mean, the labor and employment is the best division of the divisions in the law department. They're very good at it, and a lot of times it's because they can win in federal court under that. This was not the sole factor standard. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's like, no, he didn't sign this log on this date. Get him, basically is what it is. It's like, it could be the most innocuous thing in the world, and they'll blow it up. Like, for instance, Edwin Raymond's one of my clients from a long time ago. The case is still ongoing. They gave him a CD for not submitting in 28 within 5 days. He did it in 4. And they gave him a CD. And then that was enough to the federal case was enough to get dismissed based on like 2 or 3 more of those. So in state law case where a court where that case is now, that would never happen. So to the phone call. So believe it or not, the most egregious discrimination that's going on in the job right now, setting aside the sexual harassment, which is prevalent everywhere.
We'll get to those big cases. I know what you're about to talk about. So go ahead.
Disability discrimination on the job.
Correct.
And the reason why is because, so this is another difference between federal court and state court. Under federal court for disability discrimination, you have to prove as the plaintiff, you have the burden of proving that you can perform the essential functions of full duty patrol with an accommodation. That's almost impossible to do. Under state law and city law in state court, the employer bears the burden of proving that accommodating you would create a hardship on them, and therefore they can't do it. So the leading case in this is a really sad story called a case called the Estate of Benitez. And Benitez was a member of service, a cop who had bipolar disorder, and he requested accommodations to have an altered tour schedule and really kind of innocent things, and they denied it. And ultimately, he killed himself, believe it or not. They filed this case. Other lawyers, it was NYPD people. They filed a case for the wrongful death against the city. And that case ultimately got dismissed because they said it wasn't foreseeable for him to kill himself. But if he would have pled failure to accommodate and disability discrimination, then he would have had a case there because they didn't engage him in this thing called a cooperative dialogue until the employee is satisfied with the accommodation. Now, the job doesn't do that as a matter of course. If you look at the OEO guide, it talks about dialogue and cooperative dialogue in one of those paragraphs, but they don't do it. The reason why they don't do it is because they are essentially independent medical examiners for the NYPD, either forcing people off the job or back to work. So they don't get 3/4 and they don't take advantage of the unlimited sick leave. And they basically aren't do-nothings or malingerers or whatever phrase you want to call them. So this leads to all these cops being just harassed in the medical division. The NYPD has facially discriminatory policies about disability. The moment you become restricted, you can't earn overtime. If Italians couldn't earn overtime, Sal, or Jewish people or Muslims or pregnant women, it would be riots in the street. Yep. But you can't get promoted. You can't earn overtime if you're disabled on restricted duty. Anyone on restricted duty has a case right now. Right now. It's just for the difference between their overtime they would have earned. We would say they would have made detective. They would have been on an investigatory track. Who knows? They would have been. They would have been SSA or LSA or LCD or supervisor of detectives, whatever it may be. They would have got the bump, but they didn't because they're disabled. So then flash forward, it gets worse. So while you're waiting to be surveyed, say you have a real serious injury, for that year, you're just harassed repeatedly by the doctors, and then they survey you. If you don't agree with that survey, which everyone should write that they don't agree, you get 3 shots before the board. That usually takes about 5 years. During that time, you're on telephone switchboard. You're on the wheel. You're on fleet services. You're in quartermaster. You're in court section. You're in EEO. You're in the medical division. You're in 1PP. You're in 350 Hudson. You're everywhere doing admin spots. That's an accommodation for all intents and purposes. You're performing the essential functions of that position held exclusively by a member of service while you're waiting to be surveyed. Then you get the third board decision and they're like, fuck you, excuse my language, you're gone. And then that's it. So there's these hidden claims here. I got a report back from an expert. I think it was like $3.4 million was the loss of my client who got 3/4 after 12 years. Because he would have worked till 62. He would have got yearly increases in money. His pension after that time would have been significantly higher, plus the variable supplement, plus the cost of living increase, all these hidden damages. There's a lot of money in these disability cases. It's my prediction. Now, hear me now. I don't know. We'll see. But I think surveys will be completely gone in 5 to 10 years. I think they're all against the law. If you can work behind a desk, a survey of your employment from the NYPD because you're disabled is disability discrimination across the board. It's not, there's no class action here because it's very fact specific. There's a pending DOC kind of class action here, but it's very fact specific. So it's like you have an injury. So like, for instance, I have tons of people who have hip replacements that got kicked off. The rumor is Madrid had a double hip replacement, by the way. So we'll see. I'll ask him when we get into depositions. If the cases don't settle before then, we'll figure that out. We'll see. But I have tons of clients that have hip replacements and then they're gone. One of my would-be clients worked in the mayoral detail under de Blasio. He had a hip replacement, goes in the medical division, The doctor goes, do you have a phone call? He had the phone call. He's not my client. That's how it works. The other people that don't have the phone call are my clients because they got surveyed for the hip replacement. Meanwhile, I have Chief Surgeon John Santucci on tape saying there's a billion spots that MOS can work inside until they reach their 20, but they have to survey them because of NYPD policy, not medical policy. I have that on tape. All this is like, these are good cases. Like they can't get out of these later. They keep winning in federal court. And what ends up happening is they get orders from Personnel Bureau to survey these people. I know because one of my clients ran the Queen's Clinic. And basically they surveyed him while he was the one processing survey paperwork. They surveyed him while they gave benefits to other people with the exact same fusion surgery, where it's like, this guy looks motivated to return. He's going to stay. But it's just like, it's just friends. And it's not, none of this is based on legitimate medical policy. So essentially, like, sorry, I forget where I was at there.
You were talking about, well, I actually had something to say about surveying.
Yeah.
How did they get one guy for 12 years? How did that, why is it taking that long for a survey? 12 years?
So it's normally 5 years, the surveys. So you go before the medical board 3 times before you're officially out if you disagree with it. If you agree with it, it's one time and gone. But normally it's about 12 to 16 months per trip. So if you go the first time and they say you're disabled and you say, I reject it, you get 2 more chances before the board. That in total takes about 5 years. So what ends up happening, a lot of my clients who have 15 years or more on will just say no, and they'll get to their 20. They'll be harassed the whole time. They'll still have a case, but they'll get to the variable supplement, which is important. I mean, that's $15,000 a year. But between that and the cost of living increase, that's just an added pension benefit that you get if you get to 20 or 22 and a half now. So that if you accept the survey, then you're gone in a year and a half. But if you reject it, then you can stay on. And it really bolsters your case because it shows that they could accommodate you. They just have the belief that it's full duty patrol or nothing, but it's not really based on anything. So I know from one of my EEO clients that I sued like a couple summers ago that we got a ton of news coverage on these disability cases. And they were getting sued so many times that a secret meeting happened between the medical division and EEO, where the medical division tells EEO, we're doing exactly what we're ordered to do. We need to make sure that you're going to cover us for these lawsuits. And of course, the EEO said, yeah, of course. Yes. And now, so basically it's all continued. That's ongoing. There is one thing that's kind of interesting about these disability cases is technically you have to be certified as disabled by Social Security in order to qualify for the 3/4. And there's a handful of people, like I have one of them, but I'm told there's like 20 or 30 people that have been approved for approved for disability, but can't meet the threshold at Social Security and are in this weird limbo and they're stuck on the job. So like, it just shows how it's completely arbitrary.
And I tell you what, you mentioning that there's strong rumors that either the chief of department currently, John Scola, and the former chief of department, Jeffrey Madry, were 2 of the people that have been trying to get the Social Security 3/4 for NYPD and have been in limbo for a little bit of time. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just saying there have been MOS that have spotted them going up to the pension section, which is the disability over there, where you apply for the 3/4. Just saying. I don't know what they're up there for.
That happens a lot, Sal. So basically, 3/4 is good if you have 30 years on and you get your full pension. But if you have 12 years on, it's better than ordinary. Don't get me wrong. But it's not nearly what your pension would be if you worked another 8 years on the job or 10 more years on the job and then retired. So a lot of like the upper echelon have a little fugazi 3/4 application. So like one of my colleagues is this guy, Jack Giscaron. He was the youngest Desi born, so like South Asian born captain in history of NYPD, and sat at that rank for 10 years and got pissed off and went to law school. And we're now doing the Asian captain class action in Kings County together.
Yes, I know about this case. Yeah, good thing you mentioned it.
So one of the things that he's asking through FOIL for all the records of people that have approved 3/4. and they will not give it to him. They're fighting him like crazy on it. And we think it's because they're hiding the people that are really working full-time jobs and getting a 3/4 pension. And they're not disclosing these people because there's all these requirements for 3/4 where you can't work another job. You can't earn so much more money above what your pension is. There's all these parameters on it. And it's just an interesting thing. The FOIL office plays so many games with records. Everything is just to frustrate people winning in court. It's just a game. I mean, it's really fun if it's your job, but it's terrible if you're an employee and you have to deal with this. It's like my life shouldn't be a game. You know what I mean? That's like really what it is.
There it is right there. The NYPD's discretionary promotion system was criticized in a report for its lack of structured guidelines and type of mentorship or professional development programs to lay the groundwork for executive professional advancement. Isn't that something? See,
right. So I actually, through Jack, through a FOIL, have DCAS stats from 2021 on all discretionary promotions, so basically in all ranks. So for that Asian captain class action, the any percentage of all right, so disparate impact is a way to win discrimination cases. So if you can show that a dominant group is promoted 80% or less than, or the minority groups are promoted 80% or less than the dominant group, then you automatically win. So I wrote this down before this interview. Asian captains were promoted at 42% of white captains. So that's like basically half of that. That got changed a little bit after we filed. When we filed, one of the original cases we filed on that was Captain Sharon Bali, who had her own sexual harassment case against Coble and Mary Chillian, who's now in jail for assaulting another CEO who bragged about masturbating at her desk. And her boss was Andrew Arias, who became the hate crime CEO after that case. They paid $800,000 to settle that case. All those people landed on their feet, and now, who knows? But she had those facts in there as well. After we filed that case, de Blasio implemented a Rooney Rule, like the NFL's Rooney Rule. We have to interview at least one minority candidate before you hire someone for a position. He implemented that for executive positions in the NYPD. Then we filed that case, the class action, and Banks, who was in charge of captains or above, which we know through our Pearson lawsuits, he moved to fix that problem. And there was a limited amount of deputy inspectors and inspectors of Asian race. So they were, or captains of Asian race. So they were able to kind of mute it a little bit, even though obviously the case is still viable. They're not able to do that with my pending Hispanic male detective class action, where we have 15 male detectives class action. Most of them were undercovers. They got their shield under 5 years, and then sat at third grade for the remainder of their careers.
Now, I'm going to time out 1 second here because I want to make one reference to what you're saying, because we see a ton right now of what Eric Dim likes to describe rocket fuel promotions.
Yeah.
The easiest, the biggest person out of this, as you know, and you know I'm going to bring him up, is the now Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Kaz Daughtry, who went from third grade, I believe, to first grade within a few years when he should have been terminated. Okay, he lied. He's on this naughty list. He's on the Brady list. Yet he went all the way to commissioner and above. So you're saying how undercovers right now in a lawsuit had to go through 5 years of undercover work, risk their lives, do all kinds of stuff to get one grade, while one individual, I'm just one out of many, rocket fuel promotion. And there, look at that list. You can tell right there. Third grade, he made in
He went from specialist, not even third grade.
Detective specialist, John. This guy nothing in his whole career. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what you're saying. And look at this guy, how quick he went up. And you're saying undercovers. I just want that to go out and file, because you mentioned people that work, they risk their lives, and they look how being treated. In fact, they got to sue. And some that are commissioners and deputy mayors of now undeservingly have done nothing in their career other than be the water boy for the deviant chief of the department, who now left because he's a deviant. And I just want to point that out. So
yeah, absolutely. And to your point, we filed that case in 22. Kaz was a comparator in that case at that time. I think he has 3 or 4 promotions since then. At that, because he got the bump with charges, I believe, which is obviously not allowed. That's a pretty none of my clients would get anything with any type of a sniff of charges. So like him to get promoted there, that's why he's in that case. He was a named comparator in 22 when we filed that, and it only got stronger since then. So the stats that we have on that, they are a little older. They're from 21. It said that male Hispanics were promoted at 72% of whites, and blacks were promoted at 78% of Hispanics, or Hispanics were promoted at 78% of black, which is interesting. So now, once Pearson and Banks and Adams came in, there's been a big push in the department to promote, especially black males in the department. So I'll tell you that based on what we saw there, we added the black comparators to that Hispanic class, knowing what was going on to see if the stats changed while that was pending. So that case is pending right now. The city moved to dismiss just the PC defendants, Caban, Shea, and they denied it. That was last week. So that's ongoing. So look at this though. Like I have this for all the greens are the ranks that have automatic claims for discrimination at the moment they come in the door. So this is lieutenant detective supervisor. If you're a black male, Hispanic male, Asian male, female, white male, black male, Hispanic female, they get added to every case. Here's special assignment for lieutenants. Here's supervisor detectives for sergeants. It's across the board. So when clients come in for whatever they might have their own claims, they might not even realize that they're being discriminated against across the board from the job, and then they just get added on, and then we'll sort it out in court. I mean, if those numbers are still upheld, like right now, and we're waiting on FOIL requests for current numbers, we win automatically. So like these are just hidden stuff that's in, like the job's a gold mine in terms of suing them, because they don't fix any problems. They don't care to fix them.
No accountability, John. That's why my biggest thing with them is no accountability. Just like Eric Adams yesterday, there won't be any accountability. Look at this one. I think that's Ingrid Sanders. Here's another one with the Rockefeller Promotions, John. You represent people that literally work their butts off to get that shield and risk their life. Yes. And then you have people that just drove this guy and got whatever they wanted.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the problem with the job. So I have a lot of clients that have military backgrounds. They all say the same thing. In the military, there's a certain amount of parameters that you must hit to get promoted. If you hit them all, it doesn't matter if you're blue, purple, green, whatever, you get promoted. The job purposefully does not have those requirements. So they hook up their friends. They literally in the class certification motion for the Ahmad Ali case, the Asian captain class action, the city said that there's no internal policies for promotion, so it shouldn't be granted as a class action, because they're all unique, basically, decisions. That's how they get around all this. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. What ends up happening is your friends get promoted and the people with the greatest qualifications do not. And then there's all this really discontent in the job, and everyone's miserable, and they're like, what am I busting my ass for, getting screamed at in the streets when I'm getting passed over because so-and-so likes driving Madry, to put it kindly.
Look at this, John. You got a comment here from Erickson. They said, excellent. This is the only way to crack this culture. Aggressively litigate against them.
There you go.
John,
that's right. Cool. That's right. You got to beat them in court. They are here to win. They aren't here to fix the problems. That's not what's going on here. It's not and I don't know if Tish is going to be good or not yet. We don't know how much her hands are tied. Adams is running for re-election. He could have easily said, listen, you can't get rid of all my people. You're going to make me look bad. And then she's like, well, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It could be that. But the job for many, many years has taken this adversarial approach to litigation where we want to beat you at all costs. And our employees be damned, basically. We're not going to fix these problems. We're not going to stop the retaliation. We're going to not promote based on merit. And we're going to fight these people in court. And that's why someone like Edwin Raymond's case, which I'm working on an appeal for that case this morning, that case got filed in August of 2015. That's still going. So like, don't make a movie about a case if you want to settle is the real takeaway.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know we got a lot of people on right now. So if you're on YouTube right now, if you're on the Firestorm Unfiltered channel and network, please hit the like, share, subscribe button, hit the notification button, share this out if you can. If you're on X, on mine, on the Sal Greco on X, please hit the repost button, share it out, spread the word here, because this is fascinating stuff here, John. I think you open up Pandora's box. Nobody knows.
Out before we get into it. Some cases like, so I do the job for a living. So I take some of it's a lot of fun. So like I have multiple cases against the job right now for what's called arrest history discrimination, which I think is hilarious because the NYPD never thought they could ever be sued for arrest history discrimination in their entire lives. Like it's not even a thing. This is purely state and city court. So if you get arrested as a member of service and you beat that case, or even if you're convicted, they can only fire you if that crime had either a direct threat to your work. So like if you got caught stealing and you're a bank teller, or you created substantial risk to the public, like you're this danger. And if you come in, then you're going to harm all these people. Like you assault everyone. You can't be a bouncer basically, or a cop really. So what ends up happening is if you get arrested by the NYPD and you beat that case in criminal court, you're fired. You're done. There's no way you're keeping your job. It's like you're just done. You could cop to it in court, criminal court, and you have a better chance of keeping your job than if you beat it in criminal court, even if you didn't do it. That's the way that works. So what ends up happening is once you beat those charges, you go to the trial room and they bring you up on the same factual allegations as the criminal case, and then write a decision saying that everything you said was self-serving and wasn't credible, and that everything that everyone else said was they have no interest in it, even though they want to win the case. And then they'll fire you for it. So I've been suing them for arrest history discrimination. And the reason why is because we have all the examples of the people with hooks that got collared and got to keep their job. So whether it's like Essex kid with like a forcible touching, I think, in Atlantic City, or Shay's detective that set her ex-husband's closet on fire, got charged with arson, or all these people with domestic violence. The moment you beat the case and they don't know you, you're gone. So these are all cases that are pending. I only bring these up. These are not, I don't know how lucrative they are. It's a little bit, they're a little tricky, but it's just an example of the NYPD just doing whatever the hell they want and then never think it's going to come back to them. But that's one that's kind of interesting. I like those because it's just the phone call job on steroids, the arrests. Because that's just like, this is the way it goes.
There you go. King Cujo says, I think we all need an episode with Eric Sands and John Scola. Let's get it stuff.
It might be an all-day show. I don't know.
Here's Eric Sanders chiming in again. He said, Tish is a Kelly disciple. Although she has ascribed power, she has no achieved power as the police commissioner. That power belongs to Mayor Eric L. Adams with some delegated powers to Deputy Mayor Kaz Dawdry. What a team.
Well, that's right. And to that point, that's why Sewell left, because she got usurped by Pearson and Banks, and she didn't have really the say over the promotion. So we know from that case that the NYPD promotions, the final list would go from the NYPD to City Hall. Adams would then send it out to Banks and Pearson. Pearson was in charge of all the promotions, lieutenant and below, discretionary promotions, lieutenant and below. And Banks is in charge, captains and above. Then it goes back to Adams, then it goes to the NYPD, and that's the final list. One of my clients that was being sexually harassed by Pearson was on the original list by Banks coming from NYPD. Then it gets to Pearson. He removes her and then tells my chief client if she wants to get promoted, she has to be my driver. We all know what that means.
Yeah. Eric Adams. Look, Eric Adams want to get someone in the car. That's his lawsuit. Okay. So
to your point there too, Gabby Walls, who's the captain being sexually harassed from Henderson, who's still allowed to be the CEO of Brooklyn North.
But how is that, John? How this is why I wanted. These are two cases. Okay, I know Gabby Walls. I'm gonna, and all full disclosure. When I was a rookie, Gabby Walls was one of my sergeants. I know her very well. I know her husband very well. Okay, yeah. For me, she gets an A+ all the time. She was a sergeant that was out there with the cops. She put her hands on the suspects or perpetrators in the street. She also got high ratings when she was a sergeant, when people don't know this, in the 71st precinct, when I was there, Juanita Holmes was a sergeant there. You know, Mrs. Concha Frito herself, who ran the police academy and had Cardi B show up. But she's in the Eric Adams, you know, Crumbs crew. So they both passed promotional tests at the same time, yet Juanita Holmes gets all the way to the top. Gabby is a captain for 3 years right now with nothing in her record and still can't get promoted. And but you're saying Scott Henderson, who is a acolyte of Jeffrey Madry, okay, is now the head of Brooklyn North, which was Jeffrey Madry was at one point. He's the CO. John, how is this guy not suspended or modified pending this, all these things that Gabby Walls is alleging here? And he's still the CO and he's still there. Right now, he's the CO today. If you have an incident in Brooklyn North, he would be showing up to that scene. Yeah. Can you explain this entire case? And then also Tim Pearson being involved in this? It's just nuts.
Yeah. So, so Gabby was a very distinguished career. As a lieutenant, Madry was the head of Brooklyn North. He used to come to her command and try to see her. Gabby would hide in her office with the lights off to avoid Madry trying to kiss her. At every Christmas party, he would try to kiss her, tell her how good she smells, make these snide comments and really just harass her. So flash forward, that all happens for years. Then she becomes a captain, gets assigned to Brooklyn North. Around that time, Henderson becomes the CO of Brooklyn North. She responds to a job. At the end of the job, he says, "Are you going to get your CO coffee?" She says, "Okay." Then he leans in to try to kiss her. She moves and he gets her on the side, but she's like horrified and is like, "I'm not going through this again," right? Because she had to deal with all this stuff with Madry. Meanwhile, this continues for some time. He treats her differently. It's supposed to be you're supposed to have 2 exo spots and then you become a CO. She's in that group as those spots assigned. When it gets to her CO spot, though, she gets passed over, and then she confronts Henderson on it, and basically says that this is discrimination. And then that's when he says, "Well, maybe these other women are doing something you're not," which is a direct reference to obviously sexual harassment. And then it blows up. He accuses her of basically being discourteous and then boots her from Brooklyn North to Queens. After that happens, she has to meet with Madry, and he goes, "Well, don't worry, it's not that bad. I live in Queens." Which is like, it's just hilarious. So meanwhile, she's passed over. Her career is basically stagnant right now while this administration is in power. I think personally that once this administration goes, her leadership skills will be recognized, including having to file this lawsuit. I mean, it takes a lot to sue the job. I mean, it really does. It's a scary thing. She's a true leader, and should be a commanding officer. The only reason why she's not is because of unlawful retaliation. It's really that simple.
I agree with you. Isn't Tim Pearson also that he tried to contact?
Yeah. Okay. So to that point. So after all this happened, she was just trying to see, at the end of the day, the clients just want to have a nice career. Like they want to be get to where they should based on their potential. So we're trying to maneuver all this she's trying to maneuver all this to get promoted and get the CO spot and get the professional accolades that she deserves. And she tries to meet with Tim Pearson over it. Last second, he switches the meeting from his office to his car. Then she goes to the meeting. And then basically he says, "You got to get involved with the fraternal organizations," and then says, "Why don't we meet like this every week in my car until you get the CO spot?" And then Gabby left and never called him because he's a creep, obviously.
He's a little more than that.
Right.
He's a little more than that.
But that's just indicative of the whole thing. I mean, Adams is in the car. There's rumors that Pearson had historically dark tint because of all the sexual escapades he had in his car. We all know he got caught having sex in Cunningham Park. There's rumors of blowjobs in 1PP. There's all it's just there's a sexual abuse allegation against him that my chief client handled directly from the victim that filed the complaint, which led to him taking all these precautions when he walked in on Pearson rubbing my married client, mother of four, back. That chief client goes on vacation with their family. So like, it's like, and then they all get railroaded out of the job. Pearson goes directly to Iglesias. They open up this investigation and basically just ruin their whole careers. It's just, the retaliation is where the NYPD is most vulnerable. So I always say, get to EEO, get to your boss, explain why you're being treated differently. That triggers protection that is easier to prove than discrimination, because everyone is your comparator in a retaliation case, because anyone that didn't engage in EEO or protected activity is basically someone that could be given more favorable treatment. So if you're being retaliated against, that's the best way to prove it. Is get to EEO. Now, other thing in state court while we're here, any cop that's a primary caregiver to their children or an elderly parents, that is a protected category under city and state human rights law. If you request an accommodation to care for your children, that is protected activity under city human rights law. So under federal law, the request for an accommodation is not protected activity. And originally, the city human rights law was interpreted in that same way. The city council actually amended city human rights law to explicitly state that accommodation requests are protected. So if you say, hey, my kid has sports after school or whatever it may be, and I can't work this 4-bys, can I do the midnights? And they say, the hell with you, that turns into a hardship standard, not a needs of the department standard. It's whether or not it would create a hardship to allow you to do it. So now they can say the needs of the department would create the hardship, but they have to be able to prove it. They can't just say it. It's not like we're at a roll call and then we can't say shit because they're a paramilitary structure. We don't. Yeah. I don't care about. I'm not a cop. I don't care about them. I could challenge them however I want. So the needs of the department don't hold up a lot when it's a flimsy boss. The better bosses, like the more, not better, but I guess the more seasoned bosses, someone like Madry, will discipline multiple people at once to mask the discrimination, but then tell the other person that's also getting disciplined, this isn't going anywhere. It's just so it doesn't look like retaliation. My client, Sergeant Ludeman, worked for Madry and was one of the people that was the example, but don't worry, it's not real. And now ends up suing Madry later. So like, that's what's going on here. This is just a game at the end of the day. We're playing to win. If you're going to win, put in for everything. Put in for every specialized unit you can. Inside, outside. Even if you have a 2.5 evaluation, you're not eligible. Put in for it. And they'll say you can't get it because of the eval. Well, the eval is discriminatory. So that's what the damages are. Put in for everything. Put in for overtime. Put in for anything where they can only recommend you instead of highly recommend you. You got them. Because it's like that's like the CO recommendation is either do not recommend, recommend, or highly recommend. If you do not recommend, you have to write a 49 with it. So for recommend is really do not recommend on the job. So if they highly recommended all these other people and then did not and only recommend your guy, well, then that could be evidence of retaliation depending on what the qualifications were. So the more decisions that you make them make on you, the better off you'll be. The comparators, time in rank, time in job, time in unit. That's how you beat them. So if they gave it to someone, if you beat them on all three, you win. But even if, say, you're an intel and they promote some woman over you with less time on, then maybe you have a case. Or you're in IAB and it's some guy with whose last name is Pearson, say, and then you're Larry Pearson, like that's Pearson's nephew who got promoted to detective with 4 years in IAB. So it's just I mean, it's the people with the phone calls take advantage of the police department because they can. I mean, this is how it goes.
Hey, look, Francois Vallone said best show ever. I think there was a comment that Scola for PC. You want his policeman?
No, I like buying it. I like fighting them. I like fighting people.
It's better, right? It's in our blood. It's we're hot-blooded Italians. We want to fight for.
That's right.
I want to go back to Gabby Wall's situation for two things. First, I want to mention Kaz Dawdry. Does he not play anything in this because he's the water boy for Madry? And there are really the first time I've seen allegations that can show anything about the, at the time, police commissioner, Mr. Consofrito himself, Eddie Caban. I saw that I circled because no one, I mean, it's been a rumor, but now here it is on paper that you're saying, no, Ed Caban is also, who's now a defendant, him too, he's involved in the same kind of behavior. So what can you say to that?
Sorry, so Caban's in this case more because he's the one in charge of promotions and in charge of commanding officers. So he's the one that, whether it's Henderson or Maggi really making the decision, it's Caban's name on. So in those failure to promote cases, the PCs are the ones responsible for it. I actually I deposed Kelly actually a couple months ago, and he said in the deposition that the PCs were really responsible for captains and above, but were less hands-on for detectives and below. That's actually not what the law is. It's actually the PC that's responsible. So I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get into it. But Caban's the one that passed over Gabby for someone like Steve Hyland, who gets demoted from Transit District 20 for downgrading felonies and basically got demoted back to captain rank. I will say that I have a sergeant there. After that came out, IAB's all over that place right now, giving tickets and CDs to everybody in that command. Right. That's retaliation. That's going on right now. Like that's ongoing. Kaz was Madge's handler. So at those Christmas parties, when Maggie would try to kiss Gabby, sorry, we're friends, kiss Gabby, and he's like, call me Jeff. And then Kaz would come up behind her and says, he said, call her Jeff, so call him Jeff. And basically he's like, it's his handler. Really weird stuff as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, very strange. I'm not really, I don't know. It's just those people were in power for so long that they just remain in power and then they just do whatever they want. It wasn't until Sergeant Epps came forward, or Lieutenant Epps rather, came forward with those sexual abuse claims, which were like an obvious crime that he had to resign. I mean, it's like all these people, when these allegations come forward, are allowed to remain in power and continue to harass people. Chief Shell's one of the example of that. My Chief Romaro, one of my clients, after he filed complaints against, like, trying to stand up for his subordinates just to protect their careers, they came after him and gave him a negative craft as the chief. And he filed an EEO over it because it's clearly retaliation. I mean, who gets, like, sergeants don't get negative crafts. I mean, that's crazy. It's like, and then Shell at a 2-star and above meeting goes, oh, we know about your EEOs. I look forward to coming back from my deposition from Florida in 2 years. This is at a meeting of chiefs and like 2 stars and above where he's making these comments. No one cares. He's a defendant in this case. You know what I mean? It's not like no one cares to fix these problems because they don't want to remove the people that created the problems. If you're in charge, I mean, if you're Eric Adams and you're in charge of the city and you're accused for sexual assault, I'm going to stay. What are you going to do to me? I'm in charge. That's kind of what's going on. And now, I don't know if Commissioner Tisch has the power yet to make the changes. I don't know if it's willful or not. I guess that will be. I guess we'll know now after the general. I thought we might know after June, but
I find it odd in your case that you actually find that Eddie Caban was doing the same thing that Epps was alleging Maggi was doing, but they swept it under the rug there with EEO and other things. Because remember, Wendy Garcia, who was the deputy commissioner again of equity and inclusion, she is a party goer with Caban at his brother's own Consofrito with that mob associate and self-admitted criminal up there. They were all partying there, and it seems like it's just a funnel. Because you mentioned Miguel Iglesias, who was the IAB chief, also a Consofrito frequenter. They were all in this little circle, and they didn't care about people like Gabby Walls or Epps or anyone complaining to them about anything. So you were the first I've seen to mention that Caban was, he was fraternizing. He's had women around. He's had all these things, the same kind of allegations with Madry. So that's what I was trying.
Yeah. So the rumors for Caban was he got caught having sex with multiple cadets in his patrol card in like 2010s. And that he actually tried to get a job in equity and inclusion later and was disqualified from it. So like that's the rumors. We don't know. I mean, but I mean, the Post had it. I think it was just up on the screen. had the sexual allegations. It got swept under the rug. It all comes back to who you know here. I mean, if someone else is stealing time, having sex in the car, they get fired, right? If you have the connection, then you get to stay on the job. Now, I will say that he was in limbo for a long time until the new administration came in. He was kind of like his career was essentially dead, similar to what we heard Pearson's was previously under Bratton, I believe. And then it was revived when Adams came in. I mean, it's what's going on. I mean, but we do know that Pearson ordered Wendy Garcia to promote more black males, just black males, which doesn't help Gabby Walls as a black woman, or any of my Hispanic clients or anywhere else. Now it's just I mean, Patrick Gordon he's the president of the Guardians. He was promoted to special assignment over my client who was told that she has to be Pearson's driver. And Pearson told my other client, well, Gordon's my boy. He's getting the spot. I mean, that's what it is. It's just who you're friends with.
And there's now an award named after him in the Guardians Association.
Yeah. So the last year, it got Benoit won it, the chief of personnel. So I have 3 open cases against Benoit. The first one is Junior Corella. He was the CO of the civilian CAD unit, and he got bounced for speaking too much Spanish in the command. Benoit literally had a meeting with all these detectives and said, no more Spanish in this place. You can't do that. There's no, it's so bad. It's so bad. I have another client he kicked out for speaking too much Arabic, said this isn't the Middle East, this is America. And I have another client, a lieutenant, who they kicked out for speaking too much Cantonese, Chinese, basically. And this is the head of personnel who won the Tim Pearson Leadership Award a month ago.
Yeah,
it's good for business. It's hard to really even explain.
No, it's not. It's Times Square hotel room action. John, you can explain where you are exactly.
Oh, no, I'm working from home today.
He's home. Okay.
Yeah, we had to give my card. We have an hour in the room. That's right.
These guys are funny. But so we go back to down to Tim Pearson part, because I had, as you know, Graham Raymond did an excellent job. Yeah. And everything. So Graham, we were discussing things, and in particular now to get into the whole Tim Pearson part.
Yeah.
You actually, you were really the one to put out. Number one, Tim Pearson was having meetings with Internal Affairs, which is, I thought the procedure is that if a deputy mayor, whatever the hell the rank he is, if he's supposed to do that, he's supposed to actually meet with the police commissioner, not like subvert that to talk to the Internal Affairs. We don't even know what they discussed. I mean, you did get into that as well. And then Graham found the ledger that showed that, that happened.
Yeah.
And then also with Tim Pearson is, this guy seems, like you said, to have promotional power. I had Serena Townsend on a few times, and when she was with corrections, she had to meet with him. I mean, he's not the commissioner of corrections again. Right. And then, from the Department of Investigations incident, which was also covered by Graham Raymond, that report basically proves that Tim Pearson is a perjurer, a liar. You can't trust him. And no, he's not a cop because he wore an NYPD flak jacket and choked out a security officer who they arrested, that he told them you have to arrest. So this guy is a loose cannon, and you caught him in all these things. But you did catch the procedural snafu of he made decisions not only in personnel but also in discipline, and somehow he could cook up investigations if he's sitting down with the Internal Affairs chief. So I don't know if you can get into all that.
Absolutely. So we know that immediately. So basically, my chief client walks in on Pearson, rubbing her shoulders, like my sergeant client's shoulders, like inappropriate. Is it weird? He pulls back like he has his hand in the cookie jar, which is obviously something wrong. That happens in early December of 23, I believe, maybe 22, but then in 22, then he denied the promotion. He removes her from the list like 3 weeks later. And then there's a battle for the next 4 months where Chief Mamara is trying to do his job basically, and allow these people to get promoted that were really working their asses off for him in his unit. And then Pearson thwarts it all, doesn't let him get promoted, keeps making the comments about the driver, what's she going to do for me, all this really sexual innuendo stuff. And then it comes to a head when she's passed over for the 4th straight time in April of 23. At that point, basically from December until April, they have a policy in the unit where Pearson can't be left alone with any woman in the unit without a male chaperone. So this is the policy in the office, where if Pearson is in the office, a male has to be with him at all times because he can't be left alone with the women because he is this threat to them based on his history. So that goes on for like 4 months. At the end of that, they're like, this is never going to get any better. Chief Marmara talks to Bernie Adams, who was his direct report about all the sexual harassment that was going on.
Eric's brother, Eric Adams' brother, by the way.
Yeah, Eric Adams' brother. They talk to Pearson. Nothing happens. Everything basically stays the same. The retaliation is continuing. There's no promotions. Then it comes to a head in April, and they end up going back to the police department. This is basically, they fired Chief Marmara when he confronted him on the sexual harassment. It's basically what happened with Pearson. And then they go back to the NYPD, and Pearson meets with Iglesias to set into motion this investigation into just the 4 people that left the unit, MSA, basically because they objected to the sexual harassment. Pearson ends their careers, essentially. They go over there. Within a week, they had their phones confiscated. My one sergeant client, Mike Ferrari, basically goes, the hell with this, and resigns at 18 years. And just says, I'm not doing this. I know where this is going. He resigns. Loses variable supplement, the cost of living increases, all of it. It's all retaliation. Ludeman, the woman who got walked in on, gets transferred, I think, 6 times in a year, all over the place. Can't get any overtime, coming back and forth. Chief Williams in Queens basically says that Pearson's ordering this in the GO. It's just purely retaliation. They're getting kicked around. George Wang, who's the lieutenant client, he gets sent to a transit district. He's able to earn overtime because he's in that transit district, but he never got special assignment or commander of detectives or the stuff that you would get when you're in that specialized unit, especially a mayoral unit, where like you get promoted much quicker. And they were told that when they get in there. And then obviously Chief Marmara gets sent back to, he's the XO of Brooklyn North now, which kind of complicates things because Scott Henderson's his boss, and
God,
it's just a complete mess. So yeah, all that's going, but basically Pearson was allowed to run unchecked the entire time. Due process is what Adams would say. He's allowed to supervise women that whole time. It wasn't until he has his house raided by the feds, and then weeks later he resigned. That was the real reason why Zornberg left, I think. It was reported that she wanted Pearson and Greco to be removed. And then when Eric Adams balked at that, that's when she resigned in that very short letter. And then a couple of weeks later, they ultimately resigned anyway when Governor Hochul said they had to. So that was the real reason why he's out. I mean, otherwise he would still be there. It seemed like the head of the Corp Council resigned. Politico reported it was over that case because there's all these internal GOs where the other people corroborate what happened. So normally that's how substantiated EEOs happen. And if you have a substantiated EEO, the law department usually doesn't cover you. So what ended up happening is they stopped short of the substantiated finding to cover Pearson. So we'll see what happens if Adams loses, which who knows. If he loses, though, it'll be interesting to see if Pearson is on the hook for these cases or if they'll continue to cover him under like 50A, the normal scope of your employment. That's yet to be determined. We'll see.
But see, here's the thing, is that's the one thing I wanted you to let the public know. 50 at GML 50K2 is that rule you said, the scope of the employment, which sexual harassment is actually a crime. It's not anywhere covered, but yet Eric Adams, Tim Pearson, Madry, Caban, Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, they're all being represented by the city in numerous cases, you of which have a few. How is that allowed? And why is the city actually covering these people for their sexual harassment or assault claims?
So the nuanced argument the city would make would be there's no substantiated finding on the merits, which would bar them from representing those people being accused. So I have a case against I had a case against a former ICO of EEO who got fired for sending unsolicited dick pics to an investigator in EEO. The moment they sub that case and they fire him for it, there's no coverage under the law department. In a case like Pearson's, by not reaching that final determination on the merits, they can cover him there and still be in compliance with the law. Now, what happened was Corp Counsel said, this is a sub-finding. We have all these witnesses. Normally, this would not be covered by the law department wouldn't have to cover you. He should be on his own here and pay for his own lawyers, similar to like what Madry had to do in that Foster case, say.
Correct.
But they said, no, that's my boy. Adams is in charge at the end of the day. So it's like, the perfect example of this is the sexual assault case, because that is obviously outside the scope of your employment. There's never a time where you could take a woman and make her give you try to make her give you a blowjob in a car. No. There's nothing that's not like it's not on anyone's adjusted roll calls. It's not on anyone. It's not anywhere. You can't do that. It's like, but he's the mayor and he wanted the coverage, so that's what ended up happening. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's we'll see what happens in the election, I guess.
Yeah. And I want another thing too is I also think that Gabby Walls' case, you should have, or you can have potentially Quatisha Epps as your own witness in that case, because I think it's two sides of the same ledger, just Gabby's side of things that we didn't know about over here, and of course Epps' side of things we really didn't know. When you put that puzzle together, I think you have not only a substantial amount of evidence against someone who's really, a deviant, a criminal. He's everything. He's a monster, all in one. But I think you have more people that may come out of the shadows to tell you even more things that may have happened that we may or may not know about right now.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, so another distinction here. So Epps and the other allegations of sexual harassment obviously help other allegations of sexual harassment against the same person, because it's like, no, I didn't do this one. Not this one either. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. At some point, when Bill Cosby has 50 accusers, one of them probably did like as some merit. You know what I mean? It's like that's the kind of the way that it goes. Sorry, what was the question again?
No, so I'm saying I think
about F's. Yeah. So the difference. So this is one of the major differences between state and federal court. So under federal law, the employer is only on the hook if they knew or should have known about the conduct and didn't take action. Now, obviously, for Epps, we would say that he had this long history of sexual abuse and they knew about it. He didn't take action. Why the fuck does he have a couch in his office? I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's like they should have known. But under city law, and the job's automatically liable if the bad actor was a supervisor. You don't have to prove that they knew. So, like, if your sergeant is sexually harassing a cop, the job's on the hook for it, whether they knew about it or not. That's very important difference. So, I mean, it's all related and it could all help you. But yeah, I mean, Madgy's been a bad actor for a long time. He's repeatedly, I mean, in that Foster case, if you look at the docket in the state court case for his summary judgment motion, he pleads guilty to lying in a GO. And he gets a 30-day hit and stays on the job. No dismissal probation, I don't think. Pretty common discipline. It was as if he like failed to submit a 28 or something, right? But no, if my client lied in a GO, if he was even close to a lie, they're getting fired. It's like that's not how this works. I mean, it's not. It's just whoever's in the know has favorable treatment, and he was until he wasn't. And I think a lot of Madgy's guys are still in power in the department, and he has yet to be determined when Tish will get her people in there, or if Madgy's people are Tish's people. We don't know.
I think because I always say this. I equate Tish's work She does nothing about corruption. You can't transfer someone from group 1 to Staten Island to then group 24. You're rearranging furniture in a room that's clearly destroyed, but rearranging the furniture is not getting rid of the room and reconstructing it all over again. That's the difference between, I think, what she's doing, what she should be doing. And I think she should resign because she's actually a disgraceful police commissioner because, number one, you've done nothing about corruption. What I'm hearing today is disgusting. And to know that Scott Henderson is still the commanding officer of Brooklyn North shows she is way in over her head and does not belong there. Her daddy pays the bills. The politicians do not ask her any hard questions at any hearings. So it's life as usual, per se, in the NYPD. And there's another case, though, that I want to highlight here. You have very recently, you had 2 detectives that were in part of the Department of Investigation, all right, and they got chopped up for investigating the actual corruption that would have led to the discovery originally of what was going on at Ponce Frito, the place that the former police commissioner, Ed Caban's brother, Rich Caban, ran with the mob associate and self-admitted criminal, Jimmy Rodriguez. How did that come about and why? I mean, they basically got blackballed. One guy had to resign or retire, correct?
Yeah. So there's a host of different retaliation going on there. It originally starts because DOI is kind of, so the way it works at DOI is the detectives, you're not told what cases you're working on. You just get a one-off assignment, like pull this number or run this person or whatever it may be. So my clients were ones that they use a lot for this kind of high-profile case that they didn't really know about. And then all of a sudden, a couple names came back to really people in the NYPD, and it became obvious what was kind of going on. And then they got retaliated against for working closely with the DOI people. That was part of it. There's also this other whole EEO part, which really spells out why there's retaliation on the job. Like my clients go to EEO. By the time they get back, their CEO goes, "Where the hell were you? You don't think we know where you were?" Like, this is all recorded. It's like, you don't think we know where you were? The guy was a Marine. He's like, "You're a Marine. You can't go to the EEO." Like basically, this is like within hours. So like, we know from the COBOL stuff that IAB has spies all throughout the department. And if you get the FOIL records on COBOL, they talk about the IAB's EEO spy saying that COBOL's always been a nice guy. So basically, the short of it is everything that goes through EEO gets out, but you should still go to EEO because that triggers the retaliation protection. You're never going to EEO for them to fix the problem. That's not what's going on. You're not going there to like, "We're here to help you." That's not really how it goes. You're going there just to put it on paper and then let the chips fall where they may. The retaliation is already ongoing. So the moment you file the EEO, then you're covered. That's very important. Don't go to Human Rights Division, state or city. The reason why is because if you file with them and they don't substantiate the case, you're barred from suing in state court at those places. So don't go there. Go internal EEO and make the complaint and then get ignored for months and whatever. But that's basically what it is. But the short of it is that case highlights more than anything the culture of retaliation on the job, where the moment you're not with us, you're against us. And we're going to ruin your whole careers because of some really unlawful reason. Like you just objected to be made fun of because you're Jewish, or you objected to like having your career ruined and you wanted the retaliation to stop. So you filed a complaint and then the retaliation really starts. And it's like, now they're like Tony had to resign and Will has like 2 more years on and he's back on patrol now. He got caught up in the push for the transit overtime as if he wasn't like an 18-year vet. That position was filled by the lowest senior people in these commands. And so it's obviously retaliatory. But that just speaks to like this whole culture on the job, which is basically like the moment you file any type of external complaint, they come after you as if you're like the biggest criminal in the world. You could be Pablo Escobar for like the NYPD cares. I mean, it's really insane. You should still do it though, because if you don't, a lot of times you don't file that EEO, you don't have a case later because it's hard to prove discrimination later. I mean, it's easier in state court, but still hard.
And I still find that case. I always thought that because they were sniffing around in the beginning parts of what this, remember, this little place was like the Ravenite Club for this crew that later on I ended up finding out through the courts, through, legally obtained way that we had a document and showed it was a report about human trafficking from the NYPD. The precinct actually took this report. They sent it to the state liquor authority. There was a big investigation. We don't know what happened with the NYPD because it goes completely silent, even though we then know Eric Adams becomes the mayor right after, like a couple of months after this. And the state liquor authority shuts down their investigation on them. And of course, there's a history involved with Jimmy, all kinds of crazy stuff in these places. So these two guys were hot on the trail of this. And then all of a sudden, everything happened. So I'm trying to say that the retaliation you're saying about it, right there, it shows you. They were on, and then look what happened to them.
Yeah, it's very common, unfortunately. I think the original DOI complaint came in against Caban's brother impersonating him, and then against Pearson, I think, for the migrant shelter. And then it turned into a bribery investigation, I believe. And then that's like, then at that point, at some point though, my clients literally go, either bring us in here or leave us out, because our names are going to be all over this discovery and we're going to get like basically screwed here. Yep. And DOI said, we'll leave you out at that point. So that's what happened. And then the retaliation continued, obviously. But in terms of like where that case went to, they don't really know, because they just had the piecemeal stuff that comes in as it kind of goes. But it all speaks to this larger corruption probe and the lack of really concern about ethics really in the job, which is just a shame, because the people that are doing all this have all the guns.
Yeah, it's just the 3-4 precinct, the nightclub extortion thing. That's a twin brother that they were on the tail of.
That's right. They're coming heavy, as they say. Right? Yeah.
They had this, and they got cut off before they were. Oh wait, we there is criminality here. Oh, we can't expose all of that, right? You can't find that out. And to your credit, then you had another recent case that was in the Post, and it was the sergeant, I believe, in internal affairs that did go to EEO, and that lieutenant, who's a total. I mean, he's another one. He didn't get transferred. He's still there, and he was playing porno videos. Oh, that's crazy.
So, couple of things we got to fix on that. So she actually did not go to. So that's a terrible story. Her 24-year-old daughter tragically passed away in her sleep. They still don't know the cause of death in September. She goes from her command to IAB so she can kind of grieve a little bit more in peace and not have to answer questions about why she's crying or the people that know her very well. She goes there. The only person that knows about what happened is this lieutenant who runs her command. And he starts to sexually harass her. He tries to get her to go to a strip club. He tries to get her to go to a hotel room. There's like, he calls her in. There's people having sex on a movie in his office. And then eventually he takes a hint that she's not going to acquiesce to this sexual advances, and then gets mad and then threatens to transfer her to 1PP, basically a highway therapy situation, and change her RDO so it would conflict with her her therapy with her son, or the degree of her daughter. So basically, he's like, I can't do this. She's like, I can't do this. I have therapy, and the guy's like, fuck you. You're gone. You won't have sex with me. And basically, what happens? So she comes to me, and what ends up happening is we file the case within that the day after she comes in, and I send it to the chief of IAB and the head of Group 1, and he gets bounced by the next morning. And we stopped her transfer because of that lawsuit. If she would have went to EEO, she would have got bounced.
Correct.
That would have been that's a different type of situation where it's like, it's me or them. This is very pressing. We need to be able to stop this. And we were able to by filing the case and then sending it to the people, the decision makers, and then get that stopped. So she's there in IAB now, knock on wood. I'm sure there's some retaliation coming that will lead to an amended complaint, but she's there right now. That lieutenant got bounced. And she was able to stop that transfer, which is rare sometimes. But if you had the facts, you can get away. You can stop that. If it's egregious enough, that's the problem. It's like if it's serious enough, then they'll act very quickly if you have the picture of the dick pic, right? Or if you like that's what you need. That's why they're so discriminatory about how they handle race cases. For whatever reason, they don't think it's okay to admit that they were racist, but they'll admit that they were like creepy or horny or like sexually like perverts or something like that. They have no problem paying for those cases. But when it comes to admitting that I didn't like black people or Hispanic people, then they'll fight those for years and years and years because I don't know, it's just maybe they're harder to win. I don't know. I find them to be very discriminatory in how they defend cases, but I think it's based on basically how they won or lost them before, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I want to hit you with one last question here
Sure.
from the crowd here. And it's from Danny Holkover. He said, how does he think, meaning you, the mandate cases will play out? Order 62 exempted celebrities from the mandate, and that's the basis of Garvey versus NYC, the DSNY case. How does he feel these cases will play out?
The vaccine cases? So I didn't take any of the vaccine cases originally, and the reason why is because I'm an adjunct law professor at New York Law School, and they told me if I didn't get the booster, I was going to not have my job anymore. This is after I had the first 2 shots and COVID, and they still made me get the booster. So, like, I assumed at that point, if I was having to do that, then other people would. So if you follow the law, you should win every one of the COVID vaccine cases because they didn't do this cooperative dialogue. They didn't do this hardship standard that they need to. They just basically blankly denied everybody. I got a phone call from someone who was denied repeatedly from the accommodation not to take it and then got the shot and then got approved a week later. Got a thing in the mail saying, oh, your religious accommodation has been approved after you got the shot, right? But I have other people that just said, no, you can't do it. But then other people are approved. So they're winning on this emergency like exception in court, which is honestly bullshit. I mean, it's just, I don't know if it was really that big of an emergency. If you could just look at this and say, this people had this or that, I don't know. But those cases are yet to be kind of fleshed out. I don't really have any of them. I have one where I had it on another case and then she got fired of it. And then I added it to the complaint that we survived the motion to dismiss on that. But it's going to be hard because they're lumping those into this kind of blanket all in one thing. And you have to try to make it individualized because it's an individualized assessment. I had this because of my car accident where I had neck surgery and that's why I couldn't get it. Or I didn't get it because of religious beliefs or whatever it may be. They're supposed to do this individualized assessment. The law department is trying to make it seem like it's all one thing. It was crazy times. We had to make this decision in 5, 4, 3, 2. You know what I mean? It's like, and then that's why we did it. Sorry that we eviscerated your religious rights. You know what I mean?
I tell you what I find bizarre here, though, John, is that Eric Adams continuously appeals all these cases. They lost it, and he continues to appeal them over and over again. It's costing more to appeal it than to actually bring back these workers where they're missing many people in ranks and just overall in all these, whether it's the sanitation, FDNY, NYPD, and their veteran leadership, which they very much are lacking these days with a lot of the stuff we're seeing in the street. And he continues to appeal it. But we're supposed to applaud that now he's an independent because now he may be doing Trump's bidding. I don't know. It's some bizarre political stance that I don't agree with. And I just find it bizarre that he continues to appeal. And I guess in the comments also, ABC News apparently is out there drumming up a beat here. This is his from Hunter. ABC reporting NYPD said crime is at an all-time low. Adams can say it's under his leadership. And that is very much a false statement because, as you know, in January at a polar vortex, it's -0 degrees. What policies has Jessica Tisch implemented that shows that the NYPD is actively bringing crime down? What is the policy? Look at this. Look at what it says. Oh, 35% down this, 23% for shooting victims, 23% down. John, you have the ICE running around just grabbing people off the street that were part of these gangs and then running for the hills, whether they're going back to their country, swimming in the ocean back to their country, or going to Canada. They're not in New York City. So
well, the way you juke the stats though is you classify a crime as something initially and then not change it later, right? So you get a petite larceny and then it becomes a grand larceny and you don't change the stat, right?
Correct.
So it's just the juking of the stats. Crime could be up or down depending on the day, depending on where you are and where you're working. Talk to Transit District 20 about that, right?
Public safety, John, is doing so great that we can't get rid of anyone who's sexually harassing or discriminating people because
why there's a shortage of cops, Sal. That's right.
just rearrange your furniture a little bit. Oh, am I looking good for the camera? Okay,
that's what it is, though. There's a shortage of cops when it suits them, and then it doesn't when they want to give someone an accommodation who doesn't want to get the vaccine shot. I had a client that came in who got a stroke from the shot, straight up. They wouldn't say that it would, like, he didn't ultimately move forward. He almost sued the city for it. A lieutenant, within 6 months, they were moving for survey. I mean, this isn't like he didn't need it. He had COVID before, you know what I mean? But they pick and choose whatever they want to do. I mean, this goes to the medical division and the disabled people. You can work and do these MLS jobs, but they survey you because they don't want their friend in wherever to go back to patrol. This is what the logic is. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't really add up. They pick and choose when they want to basically get rid of people and when they want to say there's a shortage of cops when we need more people or crime's up or whatever it suits them. But they could keep the people on. They just don't want to. If you're connected though, you stay on. It's just a phone call at the end of the day. It's
not what you know, it's who you know, John.
Yeah,
so I want to say, because you've been on now for 2 hours, and I'm really appreciative that you've done that. So in closing, what are your thoughts like going forward? Obviously, your cases. What do we have to get? Anything? Are you going to have anything new to present us in the next couple of days? What's next for John Scola?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the calls come in all the time. I usually have like a backlog of like 15 cases to file at any point. We'll see which ones get coverage on that. But we're just moving forward with all our cases. The job hasn't fixed themselves in a long, long time. I don't think they're going to fix themselves now or under the next administration. It seems like the people in power just look out for themselves. The people that don't have the connections you're really beholden to how good your boss is. If you have a insecure boss that doesn't like people that challenge them in any way or talk to them in any way, your whole career could be over for no reason. It's just it's sad. If you get in those situations, you always call and we'll get you out of it. That's basically
So and how can people either reach out to you or follow you? Also, I know you're on X. I don't see you posting a lot there.
No. So full disclosure, Sal he slid into my DMs for like a month and a half. I didn't even know. I don't know. They're not popping off like that. But no. John Scola on Twitter, but my office is the easiest way to reach me. 917-423-1445. It's 917-423-1445. You can email me, call me. We're around. Now, I will say, though, a lot of people get worried about the news and the media attention for lawsuits. I would say 60% of my cases go through with no news coverage. No one knows about them. We can hide all the cases if you don't want to be in the news. The way that we would do that would be you file this thing called a summons with notice, which just puts them on notice that you're going to file this case. The Post reviews the docket every day. We can supplement that filing a week or two later, and then it goes through without any news coverage. So if you're worried, if you're not calling me because you don't want to be on the news, I got good news for you. You don't have to be. You can call me, and then we'll figure it out. But the best way to move the department is through the media. The best way to protect yourself on the job is through the news, because if you just follow the complaint, you're twisting in the wind, and they can do whatever they want to you. If you have that backstop, then they know that if they screw you over, then they'll be covered. That usually leads to greater protection. It seems like it is more scary. You're more out in the open, but you're more protected. It's a weird thing.
That's what I like. So, folks, if you have any of you have been discriminated against, heck, they say you're associating with a criminal while they are hanging out with mob associates.
We got those.
You got to call John. Give John a call. Go to the website, check it out. John has all these cases like we've laid out. These are just a few of them, A lot of these cases, though, they're in the media and they're making headway because remember, hanging in the balance is who's the top guy here? Eric Adams. And it seems that it's widespread. Sexual harassment is not just in the NYPD. It's everywhere. I've seen cases everywhere. One person just resigned from the under his
CRB. You sent me that. Yeah.
That's insane. It's just, if you want to use contributing factors or comparators, here you are. It's like every day is something else going on with this guy. But hey, he's the blue MAGA mayor, as Eric Dim has coined, John. I don't know if you know. We have to bow to him because Trump said he's okay. I don't know what that means, but hey, that's the mantra. John, thank you so much for being on. I gotta have to get in the future, and if
of course, keep up the great work. Keep giving them help.
Listen,
everyone notices.
Thank you. Any major case, please send it our way because we're going to be on top of our entire crowd of people here. I'm telling you, the numbers are really high. You explained a lot here, and I hope people can compute it because it's a lot. But thank you very much, John.
Before we go, everyone's case is unique to their own. So if you have questions, you can call. We go through them all. It's tailored to whatever you need. If you need to get to your 20, we'll set it up to get to your 20. If you need to fight them tomorrow, then we'll fight them tomorrow. It's tailored to what you need in your career with the job.
Exactly.
Same with DOC too. While we're here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Same thing with correction. And again, he's a Paisan of the year so far.
Thanks, Sal. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. You have a great day, folks. There you have. That was John Scola. A lot was said there. He basically gave everyone a rundown of what's been going on with the police department, a lot of court procedures, a lot of games they play. And I wanted this out there, and I know a lot of you in the audience, you yourselves either retired from the city jobs or currently in there, and you want to know things. And John, much like when I had Eric Sanders on, they literally gave you a rundown. It's like you need to hear these things so you can make your own decisions on whether you fall into this. And if you are a whistleblower and you know something, that's how you protect yourself, is through an attorney. You could also come to us, but I would always suggest that you go to an attorney first because you more than likely have a case. And I love hearing cases against the single most corrupt administration in the history of New York City, which is the Eric Adams administration itself, which you just heard of. And I wanted to cover two things before. There you go. There you go. Fist pumping for the Paisanos. So there were two things I want to cover before we get out of here. One was this. There's an article that was written by another guest that was on my show recently, and that garnered a lot of attention. That was Eric Umansky from the Publica publication. And here we go. He had a follow-up, like he stated to us, and it said, we detailed Mayor Adams' embrace of an abuse-ridden NYPD unit. Now lawmakers and advocates demand change. So in the wake of ProPublica's expose of the community response team, critics are calling for the unit to be disbanded. New York City's police commissioner may also be reducing the team's role. And this is an excellent article, and there's many things that were written about. And Eric Umansky did mention this, that we have people here commenting like Jessica Ramos, who, listen, she's a state senator. I'm not a fan of hers, but she said that reliance on cronyism makes New York City less safe. She added people like Shell and Daughtry should have never been trusted with the authority they were given and wouldn't have been by a serious mayor. If we're going to have a professional police department and real community policing, the rot needs to be cut out. Also had local civil rights organizations, meanwhile, demanded that community response team be shuttered. It's time to dismantle this unit, said the New York Civil Liberties Union in a statement. The CRT is a dangerous unit, and ProPublica's reporting shows it operates without accountability under the protection of a corrupt and compromised mayor, says civil rights group Latino Justice. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch should disband this unit. Listen, there was a lot said when he came on. There's a lot of it could be proven also, and I just wanted to point this out, and we might have ask Eric Umansky back on the show to detail about all the other findings, because remember, he did say there was going to be a second part to that article, and there it was. And also, before we leave, I'd like to thank everyone for going on. If you could actually go on my YouTube right now, and my YouTube is The Sal Greco Show. And as you can see, The Sal Greco Show on YouTube, I play segments of videos from prior episodes. There it is. And this is a little behind here with the actual numbers. And you could tell I broke down last week's episode with Joel Gilbert. We broke it down into 2 segments. That's the Finest Unfiltered family. We broke this down, and these 2 videos have gone viral on YouTube, which is very hard to do because they throttle everything. So I would love to thank all of you, actually, from the bottom of my heart for reposting that, sharing that, liking that. You could also go to the Sal Greco Show, the YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe there. If you're watching us right now, which should be on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel, which I think people should actually go to and do the same thing you did on my channel. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button there. So I wanted to tell you, tomorrow, 8:05 live, the Finest Unfiltered will be back on. I believe John Macari is going to be on with the Executive Perspective, who also have their show, 17:05 every Wednesday, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Live. So Ron Layson and Rob Lukash will be joining John Macari. Hopefully Eric Dim, who's been out of the country, as you know, he's I believe he's getting medicines, I think, for his son. So again, if you can, also go to the GoFundMe page if you haven't. If you can, if you want to contribute anything to help Eric and his family, please, because Derek is still going through this. Like I said, they went to, I believe, Thailand. So Eric's been out of country for the whole week. But if he can, he'll tough it out tomorrow morning, 8:05 live with the guys. Of course, Finest Unfiltered, 8:05 live, Monday, Wednesdays, Friday. Today, obviously, there was an interview. I believe John Macari had a woman, I believe, future, hopefully, City Councilwoman Clark. She gave her a story of why she's running. I support her, so I hope everyone can tune in, at least rewatch that. And also here, like I said, like, share, and subscribe. If you're on X, the Sal Greco, you can watch the show. It's streaming there also. Please like there and also repost if you can. Folks, it's been a riveting 2 hours. I hope there's a lot of information. You could digest everything, and this is the point of this show. This is a fact-based analysis show, and a lot of facts were given there. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. If you can, again, tomorrow night, Highlight League Network or worldhighlight.com, I think, /Battle Court. You can watch tomorrow's game between the Fireballs and the Warriors. So that'll be up there, just to take your mind off things. You can watch a little highlight. We'll be back on Tuesday, 12:05 p.m. Eastern, live here on X, on YouTube, and every other platform that we're on with the Finest Unfiltered Network. Until then, have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your day. And to be continued from sunny Florida, a sunny place for shady people.
So this is a biblical moment. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?